Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Mike Kollin at seductionpower.com. Okay, so a lot of guys will, when they see me interact with women, how women react with me or react to me and talk with me, engage, they're just like, how do you do that? And these are clients of mine who've read my book, they've read, the other books I wrote, and, they've usually probably halfway in the course are like, I don't understand, how do you do that? And so one of the biggest things that's important is I just really had this desire to understand human behavior. I wanted to understand, and also I will be honest with you, I was really lucky. There's a couple things I came across. One was a book called Sperm Wars, and it was because I was in a class. I was in a psychology class, and next door was this site. It was towards the end of the semester. I think it was like the last 2 weeks. They invited this special guest speaker. They were going to talk about the book, Human Sexuality, and that was the Human Sexuality class. Well, we got pulled in there. They said, hey, if you guys want to learn something really, really important, come over here. So this is just the whole psychology department. And they're like, this is important. It'll make a huge difference in your life. So I got lucky to be in that class and to have that moment happen. So I got sucked into this class. So there's some shocking things that I learned about human sexuality when it came to who women mated with for life that just blew me away. And it's in that book. I'm not going to give it away. Buy the book. It is worth it. It'll change your life. And it's going to shock you, I promise. Towards the end, one of the ending stories is you're going to be like, wait, what? It's because it is hardwired. Okay, I'm going to give it away. Screw it. All right, so here's what happens. So at the very end, they had these three couples, okay? Boy, girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. They were probably, I think they were in college, mid-20s, if I remember right. Early 20s maybe. And what happened was this one boy, they went out into the forest or somewhere. They went as a group, and then eventually they kind of went their own ways to have their own privacy so they could do it, right? Well, the first boy, he was really shy and really kind and really nice about it. And she essentially, if I remember right, she rejected him outright. No, I'm not interested. It's because he didn't take it. A caveman takes it. That's what's hardwired into her system. And believe it or not, this is not what this video is about. But it'll help you understand, look, we're wired from the caveman era. Think about it. There was no police. There was no judges. There was no anything. When a caveman wanted food, he went and got food. He didn't give a shit. He didn't ask permission. When a caveman wanted sex, he went and got sex. Period. End of sentence. That's the way it was. It wasn't nice. All right. Have you guys ever seen raccoons have sex? 3 of the males will jump on the female and hold her down while the other one's doing it. And then they take turns. I'm dead serious. And it's a real loud yelling and screaming. I mean, it is obnoxiously loud. I have it every year. There's a mating system right behind my balcony. They do it every year in a little forest that's behind where I live. So the second couple goes off. And I don't exactly remember what the second boy did, but he was more forceful. And they did have sex. And now what happens after this is kind of shocking. So I'm really cutting the chase. So essentially he was kind of pushy. He was really pushed it. And they did it. And I think she was unhappy about it or something. I don't remember that part of the story, but I think she was kind of upset. And then the third boy flat out, I'm not going to say the R word, but he flat out completely forced her. I mean, it was just full on dominated, took control, just did what he wanted. Here's the interesting thing. They did a follow-up on these 3 couples. The first couple broke up. I don't know if it was right away, but it was really soon. It could have been a couple weeks or a month or something like that. The second couple ended up being in a relationship for, I think it was a year or 6 months or something like that. So it was longer. Here's the shocking part. The third couple ended up staying together, and I think it said they got married, they had kids or something like that. And you're thinking, wait, what? I am not telling you to do that. There's other things I'll teach in the course that are legal and make her happy and satisfy these unconscious mating system needs. Because if you don't do this, you're done. She's going to yell and scream and complain and bitch and moan and tell people you're the worst man in the world. Okay, I'll give you another one. So there's a video on YouTube. I don't remember the name, but it's a woman talking about it. And I think she is a psychologist or human behaviorist expert. And she essentially said, look, when we're married, when we're in a long-term relationship, when we're just yelling at our husbands and our boyfriends and it's we can't stop, she goes, it's not us, it's our body. Our body is pissed off because you didn't get us pregnant. So let's say they're on the pill and you're using protection, right? You're not trying to get pregnant. Logically, you and her are in agreement. She's on the same side. She's on your side with this. Okay? It's not like, a bad thing. But her body, the thing that a lot of men don't understand, a woman's body takes charge. It takes over. So it's going to get mad at you. And it's going to get angry. And logically, you're like, what's going on? What are you mad about? It's not her. It's her body. Our bodies, our reptilian system, they have a mind of their own. They have a purpose. They have literally the lower reptilian brain has 3 purposes: to stay alive, to keep away from predators, to keep you safe, to reproduce, to eat food, essentially to keep the human species going, to keep us alive. Those are its 3 directives, its prerogatives, and it has to do it. And when you don't meet those needs, it flips out. It's not her, I'm telling you. It really isn't. Now, there's another book that someone just happened to say, hey, you should read this book. It was a guy he was in the military, a little bit older than me. I think I was like 21 or 22. It's called The Human Zoo by Desmond Morris. Well, this book blew my freaking mind. This guy was a zoologist, or he studied animals, but then he started noticing, like, wait a minute, humans do this in a slightly more subtle way, but they still do it, and you can see it. See, that's the interesting thing. When you start learning how to see these behaviors, these unconscious animalistic behaviors, you're like, oh, wait a minute. That means doing this would absolutely piss off her animalistic side of her brain and her body. So you start to see this stuff. It becomes obvious. I highly recommend you read 1 or 2 of his books. Another one that I recommend is The Naked Ape by Desmond Morris. Morris. I think there's 2 S's. So now, I'm going to get to a story, 2 stories that's going to blow you away. And it's going to help you understand. Trust me, these stories help you to understand women. When you understand women, all of a sudden, women melt into your arms. Women want to be understood. Not logically, emotionally, which is part of the course. But this will lead you in the direction. So watch this. So, the modern era is different than the caveman era. In the caveman era, the woman, here's what happens. The female hormonal or pheromonal system, due to her hormonal system, here's what happens. When her body says, okay, it's time to create a baby, it causes her to unconsciously search for a mate. When she finds one that's appropriate, she releases pheromones from the back of her head, the top of her head, her armpits, and her groin that are 10 times more addictive than cocaine. So when she locks on the target, there's nothing you can do. I am telling you, this is when I'm in love. You're high. You are on effing drugs. I'm serious. So the more time you spend with her, the more you're breathing in those pheromones, the higher you're getting. You may not think it. You may not be able to smell it. All you know is you're in love and there's nothing she could do wrong. Kind of sucks. It's kind of unfair, but this is the reason why is because when she gets pregnant, she needs to keep a caveman around to feed her, because you have to understand, like, you're like, but Mike, we have grocery stores. That her mating system, her low reptilian brain, they don't see, hear, feel, or sense or know anything about silos, grain storage, farms, freaking dairy products, freaking the bakery, the freaking grocery store, 7-Eleven. It doesn't see those, it doesn't hear those things, it has no idea they exist. The reptilian system is instinctual, and it's operating off of, this is the way it must be, this is what I have to do to survive and meet my prerogatives, these are my directives, I must do this. So she developed, or her mating system or reptilian system, it developed a couple systems that caused you to fall in love. 1, her pupils would dilate. 2, the pheromones are released. 3, her voice. 4, her body language. There's all kinds of things that women do that lure you in to fall in love with her once she's locked on. I'm telling you, once her body says, hey, it's time to get pregnant, she begins to search. She meets a guy. Nope, not the right one. Nope, not the right one. Nope, not. Boop, boop, boop. Locked on the target, ready to attack. You won't escape, I'm telling you. Now, in high school, I always wondered why guys would hit it and quit it, okay? Now, I realized this when I started learning and read this stuff about the hormonal system, how they release these chemicals through the pheromone system. And a lot of guys would have sex and boom, they're gone. And I remember hearing stories for years in my 20s and early 30s how this one woman goes, "Oh, I'm telling you, this guy, he had sex. The minute he had an orgasm, he literally grabbed his pants and ran out the door." Do you want to know why a lot of guys do that? Do you want to know why you do that? Is because on some level, this could be an old caveman thing. You are aware that if you stay in the same room and fall asleep and you're breathing in your pheromones for 8 hours, you're toast. You're done. You are drug addicted, and no 12-step program is going to pull you out of this. So I honestly believe some guys on some level, they're very aware, like, if I stick around, I'm screwed. I don't think it's conscious. So here's the deal. If you want to have sex with someone but you know you don't want to fall in love, then you need to get out, get away, and wash off, because pheromones get on you and on your clothes. Wash the clothes, put them in a bag. Do not go to sleep in them. All right, so there's some safety tips. Okay, so now watch this. So I had this lady I knew. Her name was Shirley from church, okay? So I forget how we got it. So Shirley was an older lady. She needed help and stuff. And it's like, okay. And so I'd help her with stuff, etc. And one day, I can't remember, she would complain about her husband. Now, here's the deal. Her husband was in the military. He was full-time all the way to retirement. This was a good man. This guy got up every day, went to work, didn't miss a day. And Shirley never had to work a day in her life. Not a single day in her life. She never had a job, never did a single thing. Now, this is about maybe 10 years or more after he retired. He had passed away. I don't know. I think he was late 50s or early 60s or whatever it was. I don't remember exact age. So she was complaining and complaining. And I'm kind of looking at her like, man, what a fucking ungrateful person, man. This guy gave her everything. She had vacations. She had medicals. She had benefits. She still to this day, well, she's passed away now, but she had the card to go to the BX station or whatever you call it in the Air Force. I forget what they call it. And, get massive discounts on stuff. And she could go there for, go see the doctors for free. I think it was free or discounted or whatever. It was all covered is what I'm saying. So she benefited massively from this man's hard work. Now here was one of her complaints, and this really not only did it upset me, it kind of was heartbreaking. So she started complaining, "Oh, when he retired, he wouldn't leave." I'm like, "Leave what? Leave where?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Leave the house." And I'm like, "And go where?" She goes, "I don't know." She had a southern accent. She was from the South. I'm like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean leave that?" She goes, "Oh, he would just hang around the house all day long and mow the lawn and mow the front lawn and he would cook burgers and he would watch television." I'm like, "Okay, so I'm not seeing anything wrong with this at all." So she just "Oh, I couldn't stand it." And I'm thinking, what a cold-hearted person. And I'm like, "Well, so what was he supposed?" She goes, "Well, he's not supposed to stay here. This is my home." And I'm like, "Your home? He paid for it. What are you talking about?" And so, "Oh, Michael," and I'm thinking okay. So she eventually goes, "Michael, a man's not supposed to stay home. He's supposed to get up and leave." No, I'm trying to piece this together, and I'm thinking, yeah, Now here's the deal: till the day the man dies, or till he can't walk anymore, the caveman, even all the way up to probably 1940s, the caveman essentially woke up, eventually got up, got some water, and he went and foraged for food or went and hunted. All right, every single day, because there was no grocery stores, there was no refrigerators, there's no ice boxes, there was no electricity. you had to get food every single day. Period. End of sentence. So every day, women were used to the men leaving for hours. And I mean for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day or more. Every single day. And it was like this for tens of thousands, maybe even, I don't know how long the human species has existed, but people, because there's a huge argument with this, but hundreds of thousands of years. The point being is up until very recently, we never had refrigerators or grocery stores or any of this stuff. And men had to work every day up until around pretty much the 60s. Women started to work, and now there's a whole dynamic shift. So but here's the deal: it's still locked into her mating system or into her reptilian system. The man's supposed to leave. I'm just wondering if somebody. I wonder if some of you guys are retired, or maybe you've been with a woman for a long time, and she's just like, "Get out of the house! Just go do something." Because the cave woman stayed home and cleaned and cooked and picked berries, and you guys went out. You left. Now, I've got another story that'll explain something a little bit more important than this, but what I'm trying to get you to understand is like this stuff is still locked into the female's reptilian system. It's instinctual. It's part of her DNA. It's part of her neurological wiring. And when you start to understand this, you're like, I thought she was just a cold-hearted B-word. Not really. There's actually something going on that's causing her to be this way. And it's so locked into human behavior, it's not even funny. When you start seeing this stuff, your anger starts to dissipate, and you start to understand how to relate to women, how to deal with them in a much, much more effective way. So essentially, cave women, they essentially needed the caveman to stick around until the youngest child was about 5 years old. So if she had 2 children, which is kind of rare back then because it was hard to feed a child back then, but if she had 2 children or so, when the youngest child is about 5 years old, that's when she left. Now here's what happens. Now this is actually scientific. I actually learned this on the Science Channel, etc., and I read up on it. So here's what happens, guys. You guys ever heard of the 7-year itch? Well, keep that in mind. So here's what happens. So let's say she has 2 kids. One is 7 years old and the other one's about 5, okay, approximately. So when she's pregnant, she needs someone to get food, because when she's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months pregnant, she's not going to run around chasing rabbits and feeding herself. It's just not going to happen, okay? He's going to have to help her. And then on top of it, when she's got a child that's 6 months old, 3 months old, 9 months old, 12 months, a year and a half, 2 years old, same thing. She's not going to leave it there and go hunting, because the child's going to cry out, and a wolf or a coyote or whatever is going to hear it, and it's going to eat up her child. But when a child is old enough to walk fast enough to keep up with mommy, and also smart enough to know when mommy's like, shh, to keep quiet or it's going to get eaten up, that's when she doesn't need the caveman anymore. And what happens now, watch this. Her pheromones turn off. Now here's the deal. Here's what it does. It makes her fall out of love with you. Because Mother Nature at this point is saying, yeah, you don't need him anymore to raise these children. Now you can go off and do your own thing. Another thing that, now you'll read this in the book Sperm Wars. We were designed to mate with different people, different beings, because it intermixed our DNA, which kept our DNA healthy, intelligent, and a strong immune system. If you keep mixing with the same DNA, your immune system gets weaker, your intelligence goes down to retardation, and you start having physical mutations like missing ears, missing eyes, missing fingers, and just really weird things going on. This is why Mother Nature wanted us to mate with different people. Read the book Sperm Wars. It's going to explain why do people cheat. It's to ultimately it's to mix the DNAs. Now you're like, but that's not right. I'm not judging it. It is hardwired into our systems. Men, we're supposed to mate and just leave. Literally, we get women pregnant, we move on to the next one. Here's the deal. Men can produce so much sperm in their lifetime. They could produce, I think it was either 100,000 or 1,000,000 babies. If they were allowed to mate freely, they could have thousands of babies at the very least. And you're thinking, well, why would Mother Nature make men like that to be not only produce that much sperm, but to be that horny, to constantly, like honestly, remember when you were a teenage boy, 20s, 30s, maybe even 40s. If you could have sex with 5 women every day, you would do it. I know I would have. We are hardwired to populate the earth and to keep the species going. Now, women are like, yeah, but we don't need to populate the earth anymore. It's not like the Old Testament, the biblical times. It doesn't matter. Here's one thing I tell women, like, so you just think like that sexual drive just got turned off? Yeah, it didn't get turned off. It's still going. All right, so back to the whole, caveman thing. So here's what happens. She was made to design to have 1 or 2 kids with one guy and then, raise them and then move on and mate with another one. Okay, this is they call it the 7-year itch, but usually it's between the 5th year and the 7th year. Well, guess what? That's when women got their birth control and the right to work, and they had the women's suffrage and all. Once they had their freedom, mentally, physically, and financially, guess what happened? Women started divorcing men. 80% of divorce rates now are initiated by women and not men. It used to be the other way around if you went back to the 60s, just before they got the birth control. So here's what happened. Women will complain and they'll look for reasons to be mad at you and tell their friends, oh, he's a bad man. Because here's the really weird thing. Women are kind of going, well, I'm not actually mad at him, but I can't just divorce him for no reason. I mean, he's been a good man. He's paid for everything. He's so, and their psyche is like, well, I've got to make him look bad for my friends to go, oh, okay, so is that why you're divorced? Oh, not only friends, but family and parents and, all that stuff. Some women, I've actually met a few women where like, yeah, I didn't do that. I just didn't, I wasn't in love anymore. Something happened. And I'm like, yeah, well, here's what happened. Your pheromone system shut down and now you're out of love. Now, here's the problem though, guys. We're still addicted like a drug addict, and that's the problem. We need our fix. And for men, it's literally like a drug addict. It takes like 2 years or more to get over this. And I'm not kidding. If you've been in love with someone and you've made love to them, slept in bed with them night after night, maybe even year after year, when she leaves, it's not like, oh, okay, well, I can move on now. She moved on before she left you. Once her hormones shift, she's not in love, and it's not heartbreaking. She can just leave. Now, back in the caveman era, that would be fine because we could just move on to the next girl, right? Now, in the modern era, it's different because we have kids that can't just go. Look, by the time a kid's 5 or 6 years old, he can catch frogs. He can eat earthworms and eat bugs. Now you're like, what are you talking about? I'm telling you, back then they used to eat bugs. They used to eat stuff like that. He could get carrots and fruits and maybe catch fish. And who knows? He might be crafty enough to catch a squirrel at that point to feed himself, okay? He probably's already learned how to cook a fire by the time he's 6 years old. So essentially, yeah, you don't need daddy, but here's the problem. In the modern era, you do. Because in order to survive, you need money. At this point in time, you need to at least have a bachelor's degree. You need to have some kind of computer technology. You got to understand taxes. You have an educational system. If you don't develop that, you will not survive. If you don't at least have a high school degree and understand basic math and some stuff like that, you're not going to do very well in the workforce. You're not going to move forward. You're not going to have a nice life. This is why now they're saying, hey, men and women, you've got to stick together if you want to raise these children, because otherwise they're not going to function well in society. That's the difference. The problem is the female mating system, pheromonal system shuts down. It's like, yeah, but I'm not in love with this guy and I'm moving on, because that's what's hardwired into her. Now, I'm not saying women logically know this. Now, if they read the book, they would. And here's what I think. I think we as humans got to go, wait a minute, this is just part of our natural drive. Maybe instead of forcing marriage, we need to develop a system to where it's like, okay, pheromones have shut down, we're out of love, so we need to make it to where we can move along peaceably and yet still have a support system for the children to get education, to get their training, etc., etc. Instead of ripping each other apart for 2, 3, 4, 5 years after the 5th or 7th year mark and just destroying each other and traumatizing the children, there's got to be a better way is what I'm saying. If we could educate society on this system that's inside of us, we might be able to look at it going, yeah, you know what, this isn't really a healthy thing to do, because the modern era completely conflicts with what's inside us, inside of our drives. Like, what do? Just live life in an empty shell and hate each other? And that's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing for hundreds of years now, or trying to force it. By the way, marriage wasn't designed to keep you faithful, guys. It was designed to keep women faithful. Men are much more faithful than women. That's what marriage was designed for, was to keep her faithful. If you don't know this, women cheat on men by far more. By far more. This isn't even arguable anymore. We know this for a fact now. It's statistical. There have been psychological studies. This has been done. The U.S. government did it all the way back to the 60s, all the way up to like the 90s, but they never told society. You got to read that book, Sperm Wars. That's one of the places where you're going to learn this. So one of the things when I started to realize this, one of the things, the only way you're going to keep your marriage going is something that I teach in my course called emotionally fulfilling communication. If you don't learn how to do this and then be emotionally grounded, she's going to leave you, period, end of sentence. Okay. But if you learn how to do this, it'll keep triggering her mating system. It'll melt her heart and keep her falling back in love with you. If there is a way to save a marriage in the modern era, this is it. There is no other way to do it. I recommend that you buy the image you're seeing now, Broken to Bulletproof, the Ultimate System, okay? I used to call it the Ultimate Package. It has all my books, Cracked Female Code, Get the Girl, Keep the Girl, which is the internal stuff that draws women to you. And it has a small book on sex signals, and it introduces you to the internal language that triggers her mating system. At the very least, get my book, Crack the Female Code. It is a requirement before you take the course. I highly recommend you read the other books because that will prepare you so when you walk in the door, your brain doesn't get fried. Because it's intensive because it's not what you thought. It's completely opposite of everything that you've ever thought in a million years, because the female mating system and communication system is the opposite of the male system. The way a woman receives love is not the way that men offer love. She receives it in the opposite direction. That's it, guys. Go to my website, seductionpower.com, and buy my book, Cracked Female Code. Remember, click subscribe, click the like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.